My name is Carrie Beam. I'm a clinical assistant professor at the University of Arkansas, and I've been an Informs member for over 20 years. It's a super important offering. We just had our second annual version of it yesterday. Our client was from Trinity Rail, and they brought a railway forecasting problem. We had over 55 students, and Trinity left with a whole bunch of great ideas. I got the idea for this game show, like so many great ideas, in a Silicon Valley traffic jam. I had been taken down to a client in Silicon Valley, and they got me some coffee and set me up in a room for the morning, and they brought in a whole bunch of different problems. They had a marketing team with one problem, they had a production team with another problem, they had a web team with another problem, and I was able to help them frame the problems. I said, this kind of problem needs this kind of forecasting model. That kind of problem, these assumptions aren't valid, so that's why that software is not working. And as I was driving back, it occurred to me that in PhD programs, we don't get a lot of experience figuring out how to frame a problem. So I wanted to make that skill set available to our students. Also, a lot of times at conferences like this, especially if you're an early career professional, there's not a lot to do. There's a lot to sit and watch, but you don't get to play. And so I wanted to create an environment where they could come play. So the students had a wonderful time. They all made great new connections. We had a recruiter in the audience. They had the opportunity to speak with a data science recruiter, and they just really appreciated the opportunity to speak and think quickly. So this spring, I had the good fortune of coaching Louisville Metropolitan Sewer District with Tetra Tech, and they ended up winning. So of course, it's super fun to coach the winning team. The biggest surprise to me was how hard it was to communicate the value. I'd expected to have to study the problem, and their problem was they have the city of Louisville, they have sewer systems, it rains and the sewers overflow. Tetra Tech has software that helps them open and close the sewer gates in a smarter fashion. So instead of needing to build more capacity, they could manage better with what they had. Tetra Tech Vice President Dr. Leslie Shoemaker likes to say, build big or manage smart, and Tetra Tech helped them manage smart. So I expected it would be hard to understand the problem. But the judges are all OR PhDs. They're really smart people. I hadn't expected it to be this difficult to communicate the benefits in a way that would be easily understandable to the judges. I would say it is my relationship with Leading Resources Incorporated. They are a management consulting and leadership firm out of Sacramento, California. They focus on coaching high-performing teams. I met the founder, Eric Douglas, over 20 years ago. I had just finished my PhD, and I was sitting around with a cup of lukewarm coffee and a landline phone that tells you how long ago it was, cold calling people asking them to hire me as I was starting a consulting practice. At that day, I was calling a California bidders list off of a California state RFP for statistical consulting. Made 30 calls. About 15 of them were disconnects or hang-ups, left a few voicemails, got a few no thank yous, and Eric said, can you meet me in Sacramento for lunch tomorrow? And you may be asking yourself, this is an organizational development and superior management performance coaching firm. What do they need with the data scientist? I've helped them with facilities location, survey analysis, 360-degree surveys. I help put the numbers behind the managerial insights they come up with. I think I would like to be a travel writer. I love going places, and I love finding out what other people's stories are. I would have to say India, and it is the most extreme place I've ever been. It is the best of the best. It is the most challenging of the most challenging, and I so enjoyed my time there as a tourist. The best advice I could give students, and I'm now putting on my professor hat, is that you're really doing better than you think. There are so many students who come and they feel that just because they flunked the midterm or just because they can't do homework 3, that their career is over and they might as well go crawl under a rock. I have never ever had an employer care whether a student learned how to do forecasting before the midterm or after the midterm. The employer only cares if the student can do forecasting at the student's date of hire with the employer. And then also, once I became a professor, sort of the curtain fell, and I saw all these students, and every single one of them was doing fine in the class, and every single one of them was having this great crisis of confidence, and they felt that everybody else was doing better than they were. So I would say, as a student, a little failure is not catastrophic, and for the most part, they're doing better than they think. With people's permission, I would like to be able to read their minds. That would be super helpful as a professor during office hours because I could figure out exactly where a student was confused and we could debug that really quickly. It's ongoing as we speak. At the University of Arkansas, our undergraduate probability and statistics class was oversubscribed, and the fire marshal said not one more body in that classroom. So the logical place was to take it online. I am taking our Prob and Stats class and putting it online. You never learn something so well as when you teach it, and I feel like I am in some ways just beginning to understand probability and statistics for the first time. Huge. I started teaching online in 2007 as part of a hybrid MBA program. And at the time, the mentality was that we were to take the real stuff and do it on the weekends when I would see the students face to face, and that sort of the boring or the other stuff would be covered in the online classroom. Over the past 10 years, online education has exploded. We have a lot more students. We have so much better tools. We have Blackboard, we have Canvas, and we have, it's taken on a whole new legitimacy. We've also gotten new skill sets. You can actually, you don't just record your lectures from face to face and put them online. We can put interactive quizzes, we can tailor each class to each student. So instead of 30 students in one class, I can run 30 different educational experiences, each tailored to the student. So I can do boutique education at scale and at distance. It's awesome! When people see the results of an analytics project, whether it's Siri giving you a restaurant recommendation, or Amazon getting your packages to you, or Facebook suggesting a new friend, they have this idea that it's one person who wrote a computer program all by themselves, uploaded it to the Apple Store, and the next day there were 1 million downloads and $1 million in the bank. And things are never that fast and easy, but they're also never that solo. Every big predictive or prescriptive or descriptive analytics project is the result of a team of a lot of people working for a long time with focus. So I think the big takeaway from that is these things are big team projects, and you've got to be a good team player. There's a lot of research that shows that single gender education, especially through middle school, is really key. If you get a team of 4 girls and a robot, they will program the robot or do the education. As soon as you get a boy on the scene, somehow the dynamic changes, and all of a sudden it is the boy doing all the programming and the girls watching. I'm not a social psychologist or behavioral scientist. I don't know why that is, but certainly the evidence would suggest, even through college and graduate school, if you have one woman on a team, she's an underrepresented minority and often has a very different experience than if there were 3 women on the team and 1 man. I think you should do it because you love it. And so if she didn't love it, I wouldn't try to encourage them to go into that just to do that. But certainly I would say, get in an environment like Girls Who Code or Girls Who Run or an all-girls athletic team. Get into an environment where you can focus on the subject at hand and not on gender dynamics. And do what you love in a distraction-free environment, and the results will follow. I think it might be, I can't believe I said that. And the reason being, when I do lectures or classroom teaching, a lot of times it's something like linear programming or hypothesis testing or Bayesian probability trees. I kind of didn't want to give a boring lecture ever. I wanted to be fun. So I tend to tell jokes, I tend to crack things up, I tend to come up with funny names for things, and a lot of times it tends to be a little bit on the outrageous side. And so sometimes I'll look back and say, wow, I can't believe that I actually said that. They would say, every time she puts on a suit, look out because the personality changes a lot.